The parts that you need are a 2-pole 30 amp breaker. Actually, it'll be a 40 amp because it'll be a 30 amp service times 1.25. So they're probably going to put a 40 amp 2-pole breaker in here. You're going to need a RV receptacle for your RV plug, which is an L14. Oh, not L14. That's twist lock. It's just an RV receptacle.
Yeah, because we're not going to be using this anymore. We're going to be using this one
here. We're going to use an RV receptacle for this guy.
Yep.
Right? And it's going to say right on it what the plug type is.
Yep.
But I think they just call them, this is actually a 50 amp 240. This is a 50 amp plug.
Yes.
Okay, we're only going to take you to 30, which is 7,200 watts. If we take you to 50 amp at 240,
yeah,
that's 12,000 watts.
Yeah, we're not going there.
But you do have a 50 amp cable. What I would do here is get you up to at least 30 amps or 7,200 watts. So they should put, you can put a 50 amp plug in here. If this wire in here will accommodate it, it goes back to the service entrance. But you really need to get an electrician here because he can only put a plug in here that's compatible with the feeder that's coming into this distribution panel. He can put a 50 amp 240 volt RV receptacle here. Just because you've got the receptacle doesn't mean you have to use the power, right?
Right.
You have a cable, which is your conductor, that's going to go from the receptacle to your RV. And you already have a receptacle on your RV or your inlet. Yeah. Which is probably 50 amps. Yeah. Because it would make no sense for them not to do
of course.
That. So we just need a 50 amp RV receptacle, and that would mean that you're going to have a 60 amp 2-pole breaker here.
Don't we want it to break before that? Don't we want it to break at 30?
No, the way you size breakers is 125% of the conductor rating. So breakers are there to protect the wires. They're there to protect your conductors. A lot of people think it's there to protect you. No, it's got nothing to do with you.
But having a 30 amp like there is in there would protect the wire even better, wouldn't it? Because it would keep it from going up.
It would, but it will trip at 30 amps.
Right.
You could put a 30 amp 2-pole breaker in here, and we could have the 50 amp receptacle. And what would happen if you went over 30 amps, or actually he'll probably put a 40 amp breaker in here, this will trip.
Yeah, you'd have to come out and reset it. Yeah.
And if you're not having to reset this, then you could stay at 30 amps.
Right.
If you never go over that, you can just leave it at 30 amps at 240. You'll be fine. But if you find that you're tripping this breaker now, not the 15 amp break GFCI that you have in your RV, then he's going to need to upgrade this. If he has to upgrade this,
and you have another
then
cost.
He's got to look at this service entrance that goes back to their distribution panel, and he can't just take you into account. He's going to take into account everyone that's connected here. Right. So that's a big job. Then he has to re-pull wires all the way back. Oof. So I don't know what's in here. Right. But whatever's in here was sized for the amount of current that's flowing to this load center and the distance that it has to go back to that connection point. So since my guys did this, no, they didn't do this. Since my guys checked the wires before we put this in, it's sized appropriately for what you have right now in the panel. But I don't know beyond that.
Okay.